All I got is missed calls on my line. Yeah, never seen a big.
I don't know. I just don't understand why they couldn't come up with a new name for the letter W. Like why is it Jack and its swag? You know what I mean? Oh, hey, welcome in episode 142 of the Missed Call podcast. I'm Ryan Sartori.
I just want to know why the letter W has the only name.
True, it's the only one that Jack swag. Right? Because you obviously came first. And then W came in and was like,
what if it didn't? What if it
double it up?
What if it didn't though?
Well, it's like an Adam and Eve situation where like you was like a rib of the W, and then that's what happened to it.
I wish it was Adam and Steve. It would have been a very different book.
What? It would have been a very different book. We would live in a very different society. But I'm Ryan Sartori. That's Colby Marcio. This is episode 142 of the Missed Call podcast. Lots to get into today. The White Sox are doing White Sox things. It almost seemed like they weren't going to do White Sox things, but because we've covered them in such depth here in our relaunch of the podcast, we've got to talk about it again. And we are nerding out over college football. Big Brain Book Club coming up in a little bit for Swamp Kings, the Untold documentary. And then we will dive headlong into the college football season. It's going to be a ton of fun. But Cub, we got to start with what's happening in the world right now in terms of weather. And maybe it's just our world. Maybe it's just like Northern Illinois and Chicagoland together. But whatever's happening, it is funky. It is hot. It is stupid right now. You got to unmute yourself, pal. We're off to a hot start.
Why does it always do that? Okay.
I don't know.
As someone who takes public transit, you have to prepare yourself for everything.
Okay.
So in the summer, I wear shorts to work. So when I get in and after I cool off, I go, all right, I'm going to throw these puppy dogs on now. Because I don't want to be the guy wearing shorts in the office and being a complete jerk.
Do you bring a pair of jeans to change into in your work's bathroom?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I start sweating before they get on the train.
That's commitment. Now, so here's my situation in the world of Ryan. Do you have air conditioning in your apartment?
Now, you are going to say you don't have air conditioning, but let me remind you my first summer in Chicago when I didn't have AC and I had one window that fully opened.
Right. But do you have central air?
Oh, it's blasting, baby.
I'm not hating. I'm actually
window unit.
But like you live in an apartment.
Correct.
So like one window unit does you a world of good.
I have two.
2 window units does you a world of better. I'm in a situation currently where I have no central air, and the air conditioning units that we have are like in-house units, and they only can work so hard. It's they don't cover all the square footage that we have. And so it's been a lot of fans and a lot of ice cubes. And currently, for those just listening, I'm in full disclosure, a Dago tee and very short shorts.
I'm glad you said the correct name of that.
It is a Dago. This is a Dago tee. And I also have ice packs on my back because it's that hot. I'm physically sweating right now. This chair that I'm sitting in is going to smell awesome.
Do you remember at my studio apartment when the heat would turn on whenever and be on all the time and I would sweat?
Oh my
goodness.
No.
During the recordings? Because I was right next to it.
This has got to be like good for weight loss though, right? Like I'm going to thin out so much over the next 2 days that I feel like by Friday.
That's not a thing.
No, it's a real thing.
Nope. Sorry. If it was a thing, you'll die. I'm sorry.
The current temperature as it's, 5:30 in Rockford on Wednesday, it's 97 with a real feel of 116.
Crisp.
And this house ain't sealed right, Playboy. This is this is like basically living indoors but outside at the same time.
If you want to know what the sun feels like, go over to Ryan's.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get off of weather, even though that seems to be like the center of the world right now because the humidity and heat is oppressive. But we got to get in this conversation about the White Sox because big things happened, Cub. Not only were Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams fired and relieved of their duties in the White Sox front office, but also they did it in the middle of the season, which doesn't happen with Jerry Reinsdorf owned teams. So very big news.
Yeah. Also, did you see that he's been wanting to leave?
Who's
And
that?
Jerry
Rick
said,
Hahn?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Jerry's
Jerry,
like, you don't get to leave.
no. We have this contract. You have years still on it.
Ah, got it. So it was one of those situations. Yeah, this is the thing. It's been pretty blatant that Rick Hahn has wanted out of the South Side of Chicago for a while because any vision that he had of putting that team together was snuffed out by higher ups in the organization with either Jerry Reinsdorf or Kenny Williams, getting his hand in on things. We saw that during the trade deadline when Jake Berger got traded to Miami. That was Kenny Williams doing. So enough was enough. Reinsdorf lets the two of them go, and White Sox fans rejoice. They finally think a new page is turning over. We are getting,
Nope.
we are getting
Nope.
new situations happening here on the South side of Chicago. Yeah, wrong.
Guess who's back? Guess
14
who's
hours
back?
of hope. 14 hours of hope snuffed out by not only the hiring of Tony La Russa as an advisor to Jerry Reinsdorf, but
Have
also
you seen the photos of him?
no, but he's got to look like an old preacher.
Ryan, grab your phone and type in Tony La Russa 2023 photo. Ryan, he's aged. He's got to be sick. I don't want to assume anything, but he doesn't look good. No, that's not the photo.
Older?
Maybe look it up on Twitter. I can't. Or I'll try to find it. He does not look good. He looks sick.
Is it this one?
It's him at like a baseball game.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yes.
At the Cardinals game? Holy shit.
Yes. See?
He looks like he's aged like
10 years.
10 years in 6 months. He's not been out of the public eye that long.
No, because last year he was wearing a brown belt at the Sox game.
That's crazy. So
he does not look good.
On top of that, Tony La Russa back as an advisor to the front office. But you would think like you're looking for a new GM, you're looking for a new team president, you're going to do a search. Something's got to change. You need something different. Things have been too stagnant on the South Side of Chicago for far too long, right? You look at it, Rick Hahn was there for 21 years. Kenny Williams was there for 31 years, obviously in different capacities, but they don't even do a search. They don't even do a search. They just immediately say, Chris Getz, you are the guy. Now, it's not been official yet, but Chris Getz, who has been a part of the White Sox organization, is rumored to be the guy who is going to get the GM position. Chris Getz, who has no experience as a general manager. And you would think in this situation, Cub, you might want to go after somebody who can turn this thing around pretty quick.
White Sox fans, Jerry way.
No, but White Sox fans were hopeful for give it to Theo Epstein, give him part ownership of the team and let Theo Epstein run this team. Poach Chris Dombrowski away from Philly and have him come set this thing up for success. It might blow up in 5 years, but Chris Dombrowski's proven that he can put together winning teams. There were hopes, there were wishes, there were aspirations, and they were all squashed in a matter of 14 hours. As we woke up today, Tony La Russa again hired in for he's back and he looks like the crypt keeper. And then you also get this Chris Getz situation. So who knows if they go outside the organization for other hires? They certainly need to. But for right now, White Sox fans are in peril. And that's not even all of it.
No.
Because they're talking about possibly moving the organization to Nashville after their lease is up with the guaranteed rate field in 2029. They're talking about taking that organization and moving it to Nashville.
Honestly, it'd probably be the best move for him. I'm sorry.
And And it's
to the somehow tons of loyal Sox fans that are out there. I don't understand why you're loyal to an organization. Oh, sure, you're from the South Side. Sure, you hate the Cubs, but what has that organization done for you to make you feel good as a fan in the last 20 years? Take out 05, you've never felt good as a fan once.
Okay, so it's going to look a little different. If you're watching on YouTube, I had to switch locations because the trailer got so hot that the circuits kept breaking, so we had to find a new location. So I'm coming to you live from the studio of Rockford's Greatest Hits 100.5. So
boo. Boo.
Let's see what's on
at
the
least
video.
You put a shirt on. At least this guy puts a fucking shirt on for
and the
us.
coolest shirt.
Happy birthday, Grimace.
Happy birthday, Grimace. So what's on the right?
You can't do that.
You can do it. That's fair use. That's just fair use. So anyway, on the topic of the White Sox, I was having a conversation or listening in on a conversation with a White Sox fan about their fandom. And part of it, I feel like if they moved the franchise, I feel like there would be a lot of White Sox fans who would admonish themselves of ever being a fan of the White Sox. They would just simply move on. Like, Cub, if the Bears moved out of Chicago and on to greener pastures.
I've been saying it for a while. I'm ready for the Jaguars to move up here to Soldier after they get out of Chicago.
Well, right. I mean, like, okay, but what I'm trying to say is like the Bears moved to Oklahoma City. Are you continuing to be a Bears fan, or are you kind of wiping your hands of all the years of hardship and saying, I'm done, I'm moving on?
I mean, I feel like the White Sox are in the same position as the Bears. Like, I mean, have neither outside of one season hasn't given the city much.
But what I'm trying, I guess what I'm really trying to get at.
You're trying to say, would I do it or wouldn't I? I don't know. I don't know.
Sure. I just think for what the White Sox have done and how seemingly incompetently they've done it, I think there's a lot of White Sox fans that would just say, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. They'd either be team agnostic or they'd find a new fandom or whatever. Maybe they'd be Brewer fans so they could still root against the Cubs. I don't know. But, there's a lot happening on the south side of Chicago. A lot of it is the same, even though there was those 14 hours where people were like, maybe, and it's gone.
Nope.
So I think the biggest thing that we have to get to today, since I've wrapped up my White Sox thought, is the Big Brain Book Club. Today we are discussing the 4-part documentary that came out on Netflix, Untold Swamp Kings, or I've been calling it Swamp People. I don't know.
Guy thinks it's about the Cajun people down south.
Yeah. So there was a lot of hype surrounding this documentary. Everybody was excited to see how they would climb into some of the storylines surrounding this team. There was certainly a lot of off the field drama that came from this run of the Urban Meyer Florida Gators. There was Tebow. There was Urban Meyer himself. There's so many things that they should have dove into, but Cub, you're not happy with this documentary at all.
No, and you know me. He's sitting right here, or he's on the wall, Ryan.
God's favorite son.
He is on God's second son is on the wall at my apartment. If you are not watching on the YouTube, I have Tim Tebow hanging on my wall.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow is my favorite athlete ever. I don't care what you think of me. I'm not Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I'm not a religious person. It is not off that. I just think he came at a right point in my life to influence me as a child. So I was like 10 when he was a sophomore.
Right.
So
2007 was his sophomore season. 2006.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have been 10.
6. They won in 08.
I'm pretty sure it was 06.
07. 06
I said
was his freshman year.
Like a dummy.
06 was his freshman year. 07 he won Heisman. 08 they won the Natty for the second time. Okay, yeah. So I was 11, 10. And that era alone is the reason why I am so passionate and I love college sports, college football especially. Tim Tebow is, in my head, he is painted as Superman. He is Superman to me, or it was. Obviously, as you grow up, I understand people can be annoying and the media can paint other things. But I digress. The documentary was hyped up for the last 10, or the want has been there for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
We've been asking for it. Riley Cooper, Aaron Hernandez, Cam Newton, the Pouncey brothers. Who's the wide receiver I can't think of off the dome?
Percy Harvin.
Percy Harvin chokes out his coach. There are so many facts that weren't even nibbled on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good word to use. There weren't even.
They didn't even dabble in it. They didn't even, they failed to mention it. They admonished it from the record. Like, this is a telling of the history of this team. And they chose stylistically not to show some of the parts that made this team so interesting. Good, bad, ugly. Like, that's what makes teams captive. That's what holds you to them, right? Like, the Bad Boys Pistons aren't the Bad Boys Pistons without throwing some punches and doing some questionable things to opposing players. But everybody loved the Bad Boys Pistons.
Stop saying Bad Boys. It's just Bad Boy Pistons.
But they were the Bad Boys.
It's true.
There were multiple boys.
Sounds so terrible in my ear. Stop saying that.
Either way.
Before we dive into how much I hated this documentary, I would like to point out the cool parts, which were in the first episode mostly.
Yeah.
The workouts that Urban Meyer put these guys through, I don't think I would have gotten through 5 minutes of this. And I called Ryan yesterday to tell him my thoughts of this yesterday. And he goes, "Oh, I'd like to believe that I could do it." I go, "Ryan, they're crawling on mats, fist fighting, and people are passing out." He goes, "Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I probably wouldn't be able to get it done."
Yeah, because, like, I don't know. The way that I explained it to you was not so broy and like, I think I could get it done. It was more like,
it wasn't, but
think I could, because I'm not somebody who's I'm not going to get bitched by anybody. Like, I am not much of a quitter. I don't like being bitched by anybody. And so, like, that alone would steer me to believe that, like, I would at least be part of the group trying to get through Urban Meyer's workouts, not giving up for the sake of giving up, but like giving up because my body said no. But of course, like, this is an alternate universe where I am bred for football and I still have the same mindset and lived experiences and such that make me who I am. So
now my favorite quote of the doc, well, two. I took it personal. I was like, ooh.
I mean, it was like, it was the Leo DiCaprio meme. It was like, hey, there it is. There it is. Yeah.
That was my favorite part. And then my other favorite part was when they were talking about the workouts and Tebow just goes, "Some of the guys would get made fun of and some of the guys would take it and some of the guys would take it and never let it happen again. And that's just the way it was."
Why is that the way Tim Tebow sounds to you? He's a rather soft-spoken guy and very emotional when he does speak. I think a very cool thing about the documentary, whether it was a fluff piece for these two individuals or not.
It was a fluff piece for Urban.
Well, but this is the cool thing, is that the fact that you got Urban and Tebow to sit down and do this, I think, at the end of the day, is a cool thing that you have the input from these guys. But stylistically choosing to make it a fluff piece for Urban Meyer, given the things that have come out about Urban in the years since his time at Florida, seemed a weird thing to do as an editor or director.
Yeah, I meant to look and see who the executive producers were. Maybe it was Tebow or Urban. You never know. Or someone that's close to them. I don't understand what the untold people are. I don't know what the production's called, but I'm just going to call them the untold production crew. I don't understand their motive with these last couple documentaries. They're leaving us with so much, or they're leaving us with so little, and we need so much more. We want so much more. You give us a 4-part series that could have been done in 2 episodes. Like I was complaining before in the last episode about Manziel needing an extra half hour or maybe an extra episode. This one didn't need four freaking episodes when you're recapping 5 years of an era of a football team. Like they beat Ohio State and they're underdogs. Oh, guess what? Tebow won Heisman. These are things I can Google in 3 seconds. I can't get stories. The problem was they barely had any beat writers from the Florida Gators at the time. Like, sure, Urban isn't going to talk about all the stuff that we want. And Tebow isn't going to do that either. You can get people to discuss the facts that went down from 05 to 09. Those are facts. No one is going to sue you or get you in trouble for facts. But while we were in this little hiatus for this episode, while you were coming to the radio station, Cam Newton duetted a video on TikTok talking about where was he? He didn't say why he wasn't on the dock. He said he hated how they portrayed Chris Leak. And from what I remember, I don't remember him the way they portrayed him in the documentary as if he was some bad quarterback. I remember him being amazing. And also he played for the Bears. Hello. He went pro.
Yeah. Well,
and then Cam
they
Newton
did
went
kind
on
of
to
portray
say
him as like the dude that was in the way of Tim Tebow. They didn't
he was
really
a
like
senior.
But they still showed him as though he was the guy who was in the way of Tebow.
That was
not
terrible.
This other individual. I looked it up for you because you were curious. Executive producers of the Untold Swamp Kings series, Ryan Duffy, Luis Norman, or Louise, I don't know, and Tom Sheehan were the executive producers of the show, and also Amy Foster, who was executive producer for all 4 episodes.
Okay. And Cam Newton also said, he goes, I wish I would have gotten, well, he said, why wasn't there anyone else that we all wanted to see on there? Why weren't they there? So I'm glad Cam Newton, one of the people that I wish was on there because of him stealing the laptops while he was a freshman there at Florida. He also mentions he never got a ring from Florida.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. So
how is it also how is it untold, but everything has been told?
It's been told, right? There's no groundbreaking information that you're finding out from these.
I could have I could have made this documentary without the film and the commentary from the people that have lived it.
Truth. So breaking it down to like logistics and the nuts and bolts of it, right? I think that there was probably some amount of agreement between the production crew and Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow and like the big figures that they got to say, like, we're not going to talk about ABC. That's the only way you probably get Urban Meyer.
They literally talked Aaron Hernandez for 22 seconds.
But I'm saying that's probably the only reason they got Urban Meyer on this is because Urban has a legal team. Urban knows the situations that he's currently in and what not to talk about. And so that probably has something to do with it. But the same way you said it, you don't have to even have people weigh in on it. You can get a narrator to be like, and in the midst of the 2008 season.
And at this point, he fucked up.
Right. Or you don't again, you're right. The beat reporters, the people like that who were covering this team, who wrote the stories, have them come in and talk about it. There's ways around, the way that they're telling these stories. Again, you're right in the fact that it did not need 4 episodes. Each season wasn't worthy of 40 minutes of television. And really, they were just recapping like these big games and what they remembered from it and whatever. And like,
if you haven't seen it, the best way to sum up this documentary, and I've never seen what this video is that I'm going to describe because this is my gut feeling. You know, when you get the commercial after the Super Bowl, your Kansas City Chiefs have just won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Get this commemorative tape of every game that they played. That is the documentary. I've never seen one of those videos because I don't need to. I watched the whole season.
Yeah, it's a fluff piece, right? Like we said that. I think it needs to kind of be restated that it's a fluff piece. But like, okay, so walk me through again all the things that they missed.
They missed Riley Cooper. They missed Cam Newton.
Recap for people who don't remember some of these things. Recap Riley Cooper.
Racist.
Okay. They missed Cam Newton. What are some of the storylines on Cam Newton?
Stole laptops, then got caught, threw them out the window. They found the laptops.
And then the Pouncey brothers.
And then you got Percy Harvin, who choked out his wide receivers coach.
That seems pretty important to mention.
Maybe maybe not talk about Aaron Hernandez for 25 seconds and then make it this little guilt thing that Tebow went through.
Yeah.
That was weird to me.
There was just a lot of stylistic choices that they could have done better on. I don't know. I don't know
100%.
how else to expound upon it, other than it just all of these that we get our hopes up for seems like we're dramatically let down every single time. I don't know what we were expecting. Probably just a more true telling of.
I was expecting
the truth,
like how well murder docs are done.
Right.
It's not like if this was a murder doc, this would have been if you interviewed Ted Bundy and then that's it.
Yeah, there was very little input from outside sources. You're right. Like why wouldn't you interview the investigators on the case? Doesn't make any sense.
Ryan, I think
it allows you to control the narrative, I guess, is the way that we're putting it. Yeah.
I think we would be clowns if we didn't play a little game here. Are you ready to play a little game?
I'm down to play a game. I love a game.
What athlete would you love a little PR stunt for done by Untold? Ooh. A little PR documentary. What athlete would you want?
Knowing that they're going to have their public image kind of pumped up a bit. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
They get their public image pumped up a little bit. I know that they just did one, but I would love a fluff piece for one of or all three Bonds, McGuire, Sosa.
Yeah, and that documentary sucked.
It did. The 30 for 30 they put out about the home run.
They even talk about Ken Griffey Jr.
Right, who was a main story. He was third in home runs that year, and also was breaking records.
Yeah,
that whole thing was an embarrassment. It was interesting that they tried to showcase the way that home run race weighed on Mark McGuire's mentals. It was cool that they tried to explain the relationship between McGuire and Sosa and McGuire and even Roger Maris and talking about those type of things. But they didn't do a great job about talking about, you're right, McGuire. They didn't do a great job about talking about Bonds and all these congruent storylines. They didn't do a great job about talking about the fact that they saved baseball from basically the brink of not mattering.
They sprinkled on it, but I think we're missing the greatest option of all, Ryan.
Which you called dibs on. Otherwise, this probably would have been my pick too.
I did call dibs, but give me OJ fucking Simpson. Give me fucking OJ. Just tell me a story about how he played for the Bills, the 49ers, and then give me 15 minutes of how he was the face of Hurts, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That is a true Untold documentary right there. Do it in 1 hour. There's nothing else to talk about after him being the Hurts and maybe him being on Naked Gun. There's nothing to talk about OJ. There is nothing else to discuss.
I would like for them to cover his possible parenthood of Khloe Kardashian.
No, I don't think there was any reason to talk about that, Ryan.
Too deep?
No, there's just I don't see the relevancy.
If it's Untold, it probably doesn't end up on Untold.
If it's been told, guess what? Come on over to Untold.
I think it should be like Untold if you're under the age of 15.
It should be been told.
But it's like they got to read your IP address on your Netflix and be like, been told if you're over the age of 20. If you're over the age of 20, been told. If you haven't been told, it's like Untold.
Now,
if you're under the age of 15 or something.
Before I forget to mention this, I work with someone who has played for Urban. Joshua Perry played at Ohio State with Urban Meyer, won the national championship, was a captain for Urban. I texted him during the first episode, hey, just want to let you know, you've gained a lot of respect from me. I'm on episode 1 of Swamp Kings.
Yeah. So what did he have to say within the realm of what you're able to share? Because I obviously don't want you to dispel information that isn't yours to share. But
Yeah.
what did he have to say about Urban at Ohio State? Because was that a watered down version of Urban Meyer? Was there some letting off of the gas once he got to Ohio State, or was it still like full bore University of Florida Urban Meyer with the workouts and stuff?
I haven't really dove into that discussion with JP, but I know he has said multiple times while I've been in the room, or I think other places, he's a tyrant. He's a Urban's a dictator.
But like, and see, that's an episode in and of itself. That is an episode in and of itself. If you want to do four series, like, how could you break this down? You could break it down.
Also, oh my God, before I forget, they forgot to mention Urban's heart attack.
And what was that story?
I don't know the full thing, but I know I read it. It just said Urban's quotations heart attack. And I think I shouldn't even mention it because I don't know the full thing.
Sure. That's fine.
But yeah.
That's okay.
Guess what? Okay. They could have had it on Untold and told me.
I would have loved to know what it was. They could have told me in the documentary. But there's different ways to break it down, right? Like,
this would have been so much better if we just talked about this documentary like it was amazing, and then like sarcastically said or facetiously said, like, oh, I mean, there's probably nothing else they could have been talking about.
They got it all. They got all of it.
They had Tebow and Urban. I remember that being the whole team.
I'm thinking how you can break it down is like, why didn't we get a standalone episode of like Tebow Mania and like the way that he influenced people and the way that he was one of those first athletes that like was part of the social media sphere and grabbed people's attention and had this whole, he was the way that Johnny Manziel talked in his documentary about, the money that was made off of him and his jersey sales and everything. Tim Tebow was that before Johnny.
Tebow walked, so
Johnny could fly.
So Johnny could fly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
So why isn't there an episode on that? Why isn't there an episode outlining Urban Meyer as a tyrant, right? Like, you use different verbiage, obviously, so that Urban still talks to you, but like, you talk to him about his approach. You maybe peel back the layers of his psychology and try to dig into his childhood and show why he is the way he is. And then maybe you start to talk about, okay, this is how it transitioned to the success on the field. And you talk about that. And I don't know. There's different ways to go about it if you wanted to make it a series. Instead, it was just an outlining of each individual season. And the losses, the first season, we didn't really care. You know what I mean? Because they lost. So who I guess it sets up like the stakes for the next season, but I don't know. There's different ways to have done it.
I was on the beginning of the fourth, and I'm like, I know I don't need to watch this.
And that's probably the Spark Notes version, is like, if you knew what happened.
Honestly, if you're truly listening to this podcast, watch the first episode, call it quits. You didn't miss anything.
Big Brain Book Club, Untold, Swamp Kings. We give it a rating of.
I gave it a 4.9, I think, yesterday. Give it a 3.1.
I think I'll still give it a 5 because it's still like, if you weren't paying super close attention, weren't a college football fan at that time, there's a lot of like valuable nuggets to grab out of there.
Yeah.
And Urban Meyer did really influence the way offenses are run now at the college level. So like, there are things to grab out of there that I think, a novice college football fan would really appreciate. But if you're, deep in it, if you know the things, if you remember the storylines and all that, you could watch the first episode for nostalgia, and that's about it, because you already know everything that happened.
I was rock hard for the first 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. But, Ryan, this is the most marvelous segue of all time. College football is here Saturday.
Yeah, week 0 is upon us, and we have actual football games that matter that will be broadcast on the air. Week 0, and we're here to break some things down about the college football season. We're here to break some things down about week 0. And so I guess, is that where we start, or do we start at a more macro level of breaking down college football for the year.
You call the shots. I call that, Doc. You call the shots.
Let's break things down from a macro perspective. Let's look at I guess the landscape as a whole. And I think all eyes this year, the biggest question to start the season anyway, is going to be about Georgia and whether or not they can do their three-peat. And there's a lot of turnover that's happened from 2 years ago until now. They're the AP #1 team in the nation in the preseason polls. Does that mean anything? What can we extrapolate out of that? Do we think Georgia's going to have a successful year?
They just announced their starter this week, Carson Beck. He does not have much playing time, but he also has arguably the best player in college football at Brock Bowers at tight end.
Right, which I think is probably for a lot of people, they're like outside the box Heisman winner that they think could usurp like a Caleb Williams or Drake May this year.
The thing with Georgia is they're going to be trying to do something that hasn't been done in 100 years since Minnesota went for the three-peat. College sports don't repeat. It's very rare. In the main sports, it does not happen. College basketball doesn't happen. Women's college basketball does not happen unless you're UConn.
It's incredibly difficult to do it. So you look at their lineup or their schedule rather for the year. The first 2 weeks don't matter. UT Martin, Ball State. Then they're playing South Carolina.
Games. Tough.
Yeah. Then they play the Gamecocks. Go Cox. If I was in my studio right now, I have a Gamecocks banner behind me.
Win. Just run it through. I'll go through the wins.
Okay. So UT Martin.
Come on.
Ball State.
Just go to week 4 or week 3.
South Carolina.
W.
UAB. In Athens. Auburn. In Auburn.
W.
Kentucky. In Athens.
W.
Vanderbilt. In Nashville. Will they have a stadium?
W.
Florida. In Jacksonville.
Florida is going to suck.
Missouri. In Athens.
W.
Ole Miss. In Athens.
W.
Maybe their toughest game of the season, Tennessee in Knoxville this year.
Now, that will be – I can't think of all the other games in my head right now. I'm foaming at the mouth right now. Ryan.
Okay, so hold on.
I cannot get up right now because that game is just that hot.
Yeah, I know. Before we get into Tennessee, because I have some things about them this year too. The last week of the season is Georgia Tech for rivalry week. That's a win, right? So, like, realistically, this is an 11 with no mistakes. This is an 11-1 team, a 12-0 team, easy.
It's their toughest game is Tennessee. Their schedule is very, very easy. And honestly, if they do get one loss, I don't think they're going to be as respected as they would be if they were 12-0. I mean, they're still going to get a lot of disrespect for being 12-0 because their schedule is weak, and that's just how college football goes. They will be the new Clemson, if you will.
Yeah. Where they don't have the
because Clemson plays nobody.
They don't have the sustained success of Alabama to be like the new Alabama, but they very well could be the new Clemson, where they have very successful run for about 8 years or so.
But also, Kirby Smart is a much more likable person than
Dabo Swinney. Yeah, Dabo is
Dabo your way out of here.
A guy. So Tennessee this year is a team that I think is very interesting because they shocked a lot of people last year. I mean, they beat Alabama. They beat some really notable teams. And they were America's sweetheart for a bit. And then Hendon Hooker blew his ACL out, and that was the end of the year for them. And so do they have similar success this year? They've lost Hendon. They've lost Cedric Tillman. They've lost who was the other wide receiver?
I don't know.
He's in New York now. Anyway, this is going to bother me. Either way. They've lost these 3 big pieces to their offense. They've lost Darnell Wright. And now so they come back into this year. Josh Heupel says they're not done, but
they'll be good.
They have to replace so much.
They're getting arguably the best storyline if everything clicks. Joe Milton coming from Michigan. He played a little bit last year while Hendon was out. The guy can do it, but he also has some questionable pieces. He needs to be able to get his job done.
Jalen Hyatt.
Jalen Hyatt's the guy that got drafted? It's a good name. If Joe Milton has this season, he will, 1, take Tennessee to the playoffs for the first time. 2, will win the Heisman.
The SEC is interesting this year because of the variable that Tennessee is. I think LSU is an interesting variable this year in the SEC.
LSU is one of those hyped up teams that could crumble quick, and
True.
a lot of people are not buying the hype.
Is it the quarterback this year? Did you say it's Jalen Davis again?
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, big LSU guy. But I think a lot of people watched the breakout of Neighbors last year. The wide receiver Neighbors had a really good year. They're always going to have a good defense. It's DBU down there, so they're always going to be fine defensively. It's a matter of what they can get out of the team offensively is the question. And they've got a quarterback going into year 2 or 3, and vying for draft position this year as well. So like LSU could be interesting. Tennessee could be interesting. Alabama is a juggernaut, and whether or not they are transitioning out of quarterbacks or whatever, they're still going to be good. Georgia's going to be good. So there's 4 teams already that you're like, whoof. And who comes out on top of that? Who knows?
It's up in the air. It's really up in the air.
But I don't think there's another team. I don't think there's more than that in the SEC this year that's going to be very scary.
It's just the main 3.
4, if you want to count LSU in to start the season.
Yeah, my bad. Bad math.
It's okay. That's why we talk for a living. Because LSU is going to start the season unranked. Tennessee starts the year at 12. You've got Alabama at 4. You've got Georgia at 1.
LSU's not ranked?
Why is this talking to me?
LSU?
Talk to me. LSU is unranked. Why is this talking to me? There's a video playing somewhere on this screen, and I don't want it to. There we go.
LSU's ranked 5th, big guy.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, that felt wrong. I was looking for it. But yes, LSU.
They kick off the season against number 8 FSU. That game alone will let you know how both of those teams' seasons will probably start.
That's a big way to start the year.
Two teams with massive hype, 2 teams with a lot to prove. One team has the most returning product in college football, Florida State. The other has – I don't really know that much about this LSU team, if I'm being honest. I know Jaden Daniels has a lot of hype. I know people don't trust him as much as the hype is.
There was a lot of situations last year. I've watched a couple of the LSU games. I haven't really watched a ton since this podcast is
clearly
concluded and restarted.
What was his name again? What was his name?
Jordan Diamato. I don't know. There's a new bit. Every time we talk about Jalen Davis, he's going to be a new JD name.
Jaden Daniels. God. Let's get him on the pod so you can fuck up his name.
Yeah. All right. What's going on, Justin? So they have JD. They have Neighbors, who's supposed to be a top 3 wide receiver this year. They'll be interesting. The SEC is going to be in flux, but I think more interesting than that is the Pac-12, which is going to be entering basically its final year of existence. USC is the juggernaut. USC is the team that everybody's looking at as like, better not fuck this up.
Yeah, their defense is still the biggest issue.
Right.
Now, USC's tough because having a quarterback that already won the Heisman, there's already pressure on him to basically double his production from last season, which is essentially impossible. You're never going to be better than your Heisman year in the eyes of
a Heisman voter,
the voters.
Right.
And nobody wants an Archie situation where they win it twice. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. If you're betting Caleb Williams, expect him to go nuclear or nothing.
Yeah. He's either going to like completely sell himself as the number 1 overall pick.
Disrespect to Caleb Williams. I have utmost respect for him. Incredible player, top 3 player in the country right now. Him, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers.
Right meow.
Right meow.
But no, I think that USC is going to be a very interesting team because you remember
Utah
too.
is still good.
That's
Utah is
that's what
still
I'm
good.
saying is they were so good last year. USC was so good last year. Everybody was riding that hype train, and then they meet Utah in the Pac-12 championship and completely ruin their opportunity to get
Trounced.
into the Final Four. They got whooped by Utah, which allowed TCU to sneak in there. But like it should have been Caleb Williams, his Heisman year, and the opportunity to win the national championship game. Instead, they wasted it away in a Pac-12 championship game.
Now, I still don't think USC should have made the playoffs. They lost to Tulane in the bowl game.
Yeah.
People forget I had money on Tulane.
So you'll never forget that.
Will not.
No.
That one game was nuts. That game was nuts, Ryan. Nuts.
But I think looking at the Pac-12, it's theirs to lose, right?
It's that or not. It's them in Utah.
Yeah, I'm truthfully asking.
It's going to be good. The Pac-12 will be good, but we're missing a team that has so much hype that I just don't understand why we're not discussing them in the first place.
Oregon Ducks and Bo Nix?
Incorrect. Colorado. Like you bring in 85 players and everyone thinks that they're going to win the national title, have the most tickets to win the title. Their over-under is 3.5 wins. Bet the under on them. You do not bring in 70 guys. Oh, I don't care if they're Louis. I don't care what they are. You don't build culture in the first year.
Colorado's going to win one big game. Which big game it is, I don't know. Colorado
State.
Big game that everybody will be like, okay, Coach Prime is here. But that'll be it. I mean, truthfully, that's all I can see them getting is that one big game. And then it's going to be a kerfuffle of a year outside of that because you're right. You can't overhaul culture like that and then expect things to be
very
fine.
Complicated. There's hundreds of kids in this locker room. And this is no disrespect. I love Coach Prime. I love how he presents himself as a coach. I think he does it. People are giving him crap for that fighting thing. I don't really care. You gotta have guys want it, just like the Urban. You gotta have guys want it. And how bad do they want it? Show me.
Right.
I am the type of person that next year is when you buy in on Colorado, not the first year while he's bringing in people and everything, the process of all that and building relationships and chemistry. Next year is the year when Colorado will be fun.
Is the quarterback son Shadur?
I think that's how you say it.
Shedder or either way.
It's not that. I'll tell you that right.
Shedder Bob. But like maybe he sticks around for an extra year and Colorado has an opportunity with
they're getting that bread.
Third or fourth year. Well,
you're getting bread. Stay.
You might as well because what are the odds that Shadur Sanders is any good at the NFL level? I can't speak to that with any sort of certainty, but like if you're getting paid to play college football, get paid to play college football with your dad. I mean, that seems like a pretty easy layup, and there's a bunch of marketing opportunities there. Colorado this year, I'm just looking at it, Colby. TCU to start.
Oh, I have TCU minus 20.5 already.
Really?
20.5. They're going to get the doors blown off.
It's TCU, then Nebraska, followed by Colorado State, Oregon.
That'll be their only win, and that'll be the biggest win for them. I mean, Colorado State's sometimes good, but I don't know. The whole thing's a toss-up. Like, people think Stanford's going to be bad. They forget that they beat Florida.
Right. It's Oregon. They play them in Eugene. They have USC at home.
Loss.
Arizona State in Tempe.
Maybe a win.
Stanford at home. UCLA in Pasadena. They've got Oregon State at home, Arizona at home, and then it's Washington State on the road, Utah on the road, and then if they get there, the Pac-12 championship game, which they most likely will not. But they close the year with Utah. Like that's a tough way to close.
That's a good way for Utah to get ready for the Pac-12 championship.
That's a tune-up game. That is a tune-up game, right? Knock off all the dust, anything you got there. So yeah, I think we both agree. Like it's a 2-horse race in the Pac-12. That's going to be interesting. Some other like storylines that I kind of wanted to touch on, if it's cool, is Texas and their quarterback situation and what's happening there between Quinn Ewers and is it already the Manning brother that's pushing for
Manning nephew?
Manning nephew. They're all brothers. brother.
Yeah, Archie's a freshman. He's not going to play. So Quinn Ewers last year against Alabama, before he got hurt, I think he's collarbone. I was like, oh my God, this guy's good.
Yeah.
I was like, I hate Texas. Oh, I'm an Oklahoma guy. I hate Texas, but I'm also very unbiased in sports. I can see awesomeness when it's in front of me.
Right.
They have potential to be awesome. They also do have some hype behind them, but it's rightfully so. If Quinn Ewers is healthy, that team can be really good in their final season in the Big 12. And honestly, it's theirs to lose. It's who else is going to win the Big 12?
Yeah, Oklahoma's time in the sun is
Oklahoma had a
past.
bad season last year, but they had a lot of close games. So people are still sleeping on Oklahoma. I would buy on Oklahoma this season.
But I think their time in the sun, as we know it, has passed. Kansas had
also
the
new coach, new culture last year. You got to remember that.
True. But like I said, Kansas had the magic last year. I don't know that you get it 2 years in a row.
Sell.
K-State was obviously very good last year as well, too.
The interesting thing about the Big 12 is they have a lot of mediocre teams, but some of those mediocre teams always show the F up.
Yeah, they can jump up
against the best teams. Iowa State always upset somebody.
Right.
Always.
They can jump up
Tough
and
win.
get you. You never know. They're going to come out of somewhere and just whack and get you. And you're like, damn, how the fuck did K-State beat, I don't know, TCU or Utah or, pick a team. I'm just, I'm spitting here. But I think that's probably something very interesting to watch this year. I think that everybody's going to have eyes on, the big three that we've talked about in terms of Heisman watch with Bowers, with Williams, Marvin Harrison. But I think Quinn Ewers, depending on the year that he has, could be somebody that, like, come the end of it, we're like,
you got a sleeper, huh?
Yeah. Is the mullet going to win this? Is the mullet guy going to win this? Who knows?
Now another sleeper, JJ McCarthy.
Oh yeah, up in Michigan.
Fifth most returning product in college football.
Yeah, they've got Blake Corum coming back. They've got McCarthy coming back.
The other running back, Donovan.
They have some wide receiver talent coming back too. They're going to be in a good situation.
Their offensive line is decorated, and you know us. You got offensive line, you're doing just fine. I thought of that just now.
We love them thickums, those thick athletes.
They're bringing back a lot. I'm very high on Michigan, very high, which feels gross to me because I've never been high on Michigan in my life.
Yeah, I've never been a big Michigan fan.
Neither have I, but I'm here for JJ's dad. He's a big butt guy. You don't remember that video?
No.
His dad put his finger on JJ's girlfriend's butt.
Oh.
I think it was just a nervous twitch, but
yeah,
it was everywhere.
Just dad things.
And
I guess great transition too, because another team that I kind of wanted to just touch on is the Penn State Nittany Lions.
You don't want to talk Ohio State, huh?
We could talk Ohio State. I
have no thoughts on Ohio State.
Heading towards the Big Ten, it's an interesting situation out there in Penn State because they've had top guys elect to go away from the draft and come back because they think that they have this thing. They could win the Big Ten this year based off of some of the things that they did well last year. Olanu Fashanu, I believe, is the offensive tackle's name. I probably butchered that, but he was supposed to be a top 3 tackle in this year's NFL draft. Decided to opt out and go back to school because he believes that they have an opportunity to win the Big Ten this year and compete with Michigan, because Ohio State, like you just said, you have nothing to say about them, likely because they might have a little bit of a down year out there.
They won't have a down year.
You don't think so?
No. Question for you.
I'll take it.
You can answer it. If you can't, it's fine. Because I don't have a thought yet. Do you think James Franklin is on the hot seat if they don't get it done this year, Penn State?
They're trending in the right direction, so it feels like no.
But how many years has James Franklin been coaching at Penn State?
I don't know.
Too long for him to be doing nothing.
Yeah, they haven't even really threatened for Big Ten championship, right?
I mean, he's got 4 bowl wins, 4 bowl losses at Penn State. His record he's been coaching at Penn State since 2014. So 7-6,
Yeah, I was just looking
7-6,
that up.
11-3, 11-2, 9-4, 11-2, 4-5, 7-6, 11-2.
So like those 11-2 years are valuable because you're competing for things. It's just the fact that you happen to be in a conference, and I think they're in the same division, right, as Ohio State.
Yeah.
Of the Big Ten. So like you don't ever benefit from that. You have to
The
beat
Big
Ohio
Ten
State
East.
on a given year.
Or the Big Ten West. I'm sorry. Big Ten East. Sorry. Big Ten East.
But you have to beat Ohio State in a given year to make it to that point. So that's always incredibly difficult to do because that's a juggernaut team.
The Big Ten is hilarious because of the East is just juggernauts. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Right.
Falls off the table after that. The West, Northwestern, Illinois, Iowa.
The teams that should rightfully
Nebraska.
never, ever be in the Big Ten championship, but they end up there. When was it Ohio State and Northwestern? Was that last year? Or was that 2 years ago?
Or not last year because Northwestern won one game. I think 2 years ago. The Northwestern is just, let's not talk.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk
no,
about
that whole situation was disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't think that was something we got to bring up on the show. But
can we just talk about the most interesting game week 0? I'm itching.
Yeah, let's jump to it. Let's jump to it.
Scratching.
Because everybody knows traditionally it's fuck the Big 12 and fuck the ACC. We don't need to talk about them. Though you again said that you're really big on Florida State and think that they're a runaway favorite for the ACC this year.
Who else is threatening them?
Right.
I'm not buying Clemson. I'm not buying on a Clemson.
I think the only other competition, just based off of hype of their quarterback position, is UNC.
Jordan Travis is going to be a good quarterback. You bring back. Oh, what's the number? Do I have it written down? Hold on. I think they're the number one returning offense or number one returning product in college football. The number is 87%. That is a lot of guys coming back. 87% of your boys are coming back.
It's a lot of dudes.
In a transfer era, a free agency era, that just shows me guys are coming back and they want to play at Florida State.
Right. They believe in something that's going to happen there this year. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. But yes, let's get around to week 0 because we have football this weekend.
Yep. Your favorite school plays, but we're going to get to them later.
What are you most excited for?
Hawaii Vanderbilt has to be the most interesting game. On one side, you have a school flying from the other side of the world and that has just been affected by fires in Maui. And on the other hand, you have a school that is currently under construction and has essentially a high school stadium for their fans. Baseball school. People forget Vanderbilt, baseball school. But who's going to be more ready to play is my question because it's a neutral site, essentially. No one's going to the game.
Yeah. It'll be like a 2020 game all over again, right? That's what it'll feel like.
And in this past week, I've sold myself that Hawaii will cover the 17.5-point spread because of just how their quarterback put on 20 pounds of muscle. Ooh,
oh, wow.
Like that. Started his sophomore season like that. He's a junior. Knows the offense. Also got the doors blown off them last year against Vanderbilt. Out for blood. I like that. He better be. If he's putting on 20 pounds of muscle, he's coming out ready to roll.
Yeah.
Also, both teams have a terrible defense. They were at the bottom of the country last season. In Hawaii, we know Hawaii, run and shoot. They're slinging that thing the entire game.
Slang that thing, baby. Yeah. I think just for peripherals alone, that's an interesting game. Like even if you're not super into the game and the teams and the players, like the peripherals alone, right? Like all the tie-ins for the wildfires, the effects that it's had undoubtedly on some of the players that are going to be in this game. And then you add in the oddity and the craziness of not having a real stadium to play in.
And I'm not trying to say that the stadium missing is the same as being affected by wildfires.
No, and I don't think anybody would take it that way. I would hope not.
Right. Hope not. Because I'm not that ignorant.
But it is one of
I'm very educated. You can see my diplomas.
No, I
I'm not
just
a
see
jerk.
bobbleheads.
No. They're up there. They're up there.
But peripherals will be something interesting as well. The storylines of sports is what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the storyline of the first action that you see from a public institution from Hawaii is going to be an interesting thing to watch. So
if you're a sicko degenerate gambler like me, if Hawaii doesn't cover the spread this week, guess what? They're at home their next game. We hammer Hawaii at home
in week 2 or week 1, I guess,
whenever they play.
Right.
I don't know if it's week 2, week 1, whenever they play. Hammer 'em.
So
they got to show up eventually.
I think the normie pick for like favorite game of the week, thing you're most excited for, is probably the Florida and Utah game that's happening 7:00 in.
Is that week 0?
I thought it was week 0. Oh no, this is
the week 1. The week 1 page is so annoying. It's so hard to like flip. It's not.
You can't flip through it. It's impossible to flip through.
They just give you week 1. There's no like week 0 selection wherever you look. It's annoying. Don't worry. I've done the same thing.
Sorry about that. But they do play before week 1 actually kicks off. They have that Thursday night on ESPN. Oh, this might be why. I'm looking at.
Can't wait to bet the under.
All games.
Yeah, that's it's so annoying. So I would say the best 2 games this weekend.
Elon and Wake Forest for sure, and then Rhode Island and Georgia State.
It's going to be USC, San Jose State, or Notre Dame Navy.
Yeah, I really don't want to watch Notre Dame.
I will. I have the under.
Every year that's probably good. What's the line at?
50.5.
What?
Yeah.
Absolutely hammer the under. What's the odds on it?
Let's see. Have they moved? Let me see.
Also, while Cub is talking about this, don't forget to check out.
Ooh, it went down.
Shut up for a second while I promote your podcast. Don't forget to check out Cub's new solo venture as he, brings you through the football season with all the lines and advice that you need. Up Your Units is the new name of Colby's podcast. You could check it out. He just had his first episode release, and you had a guest on as well.
Mr. Joshua Perry, aforementioned.
Who we mentioned already in the show. So you can check that out anywhere you get your podcasts. And what is it? Is that underneath the Miscall umbrella, the Miscall Media Group umbrella?
He wishes, people. He wishes.
I'm going to buy your IP so hard.
I don't know if I like this. It went down.
What? The odds?
No, the number. It's at 49 now. I don't like that.
Why? What do they know that we don't know?
No, it's because that means people are betting the under. I would rather it go up and people bet the over. But it's week 1. The public has to win eventually. I'm not fading the public. I don't even think it's that split right now.
What do you think about what's the new quarterback?
Sam Hartman?
Sam Hartman. Yeah. What do you think of him? What do you think he's going to do? Wake Forest transfer, had the situation, the health scare going into last year, made a triumphant return, was great. Now he's transferred to Notre Dame.
It's going to be interesting. I think this team will be more fun. I think we can finally enjoy a Notre Dame team. You and I, even though the people out there know we don't like Notre Dame.
Hate him, actually.
Hartman is interesting. He throws a good, this is JP told me this. He throws a good deep ball. He's kind of iffy everywhere else.
Okay.
But I think he'll be solid. But in terms of this game, the spread's at 20.5. I think it's just it's a weird thing because we know Navy's all run. They're going to chew the clock. They're going
to nibble on that shit.
Nibble on the clock the whole game. And I said on the Up Your Units podcast, I can see this game being 10-30. And it just be or just any variation of it being hovering over one team barely covering. It's a tough one, but
Yeah,
also I
it's a
would rather
conundrum
I
game.
would rather get burned on 50.5 than take one of these spreads.
Yeah, well, it's a comfortable loss, right? If you get burned out on that game, Navy and Notre Dame going over
I would
50.
hope Notre Dame puts up fucking 45 points.
They should. They're Notre Dame. That for as much as they claim themselves as like the keepers of college football, they should put up 45 against a military school.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Which did you get into like sports through video games? Have we ever had this discussion?
No.
I got into football through video games pretty much.
Really?
I got it in through Madden.
I got into football because I played Pee Wee Sports, and like it was the thing that made my dad love me.
Ryan, we haven't even had sex yet. Quit with the pillow talk.
What?
No,
no, we haven't had sex in this iteration of the podcast, but I think at some point have probably gotten pretty intimate, right? Remember that time I slept on your couch?
Yeah, and you left a trail of fries so you could remember how to get back to Red Hot Ranch.
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
All right.
I bet you that trail of fries is still there, the fucking greedy ass rats.
No, remember that girl ate them?
Oh yeah. Oh yuck.
All right.
Fucking
all right.
Swamp rat.
So I remember getting
swamp rat.
I remember getting NCAA, I think 08 or 07.
You know it's coming back, right?
Oh, I might have to get a system.
This is big for Colby.
Barry. Haven't had a system in 10 years. I had that, and I was like, oh, what school do I use? Whatever. And I was like, I think I came across like Navy or Army. I was Army because they're the Knights. And I was like, oh my God, yes, this team is going to be sick. The Army? How could they be bad?
It's literally dudes with guns. It's like
literally, this team is the reason why we're free.
I remember on those games, I used to always go. Well, the mascots are fun, but on those games, I would always play with Florida, and I would always play with Texas. My dad lived in Florida and Texas, so I would always play with those teams. Yeah, I believe it too, horns down all the way. But yeah, I got into sports because I played sports. And so it kind of became a hyper fixation for me, and now it's become kind of my superpower to remember dumb numbers that nobody gives a fuck about. So
that's why you're good at Immaculate Grid,
dude. Yeah, it's again, that is my
Quit posting it. We don't give a fuck.
But it's gotta go somewhere. Somebody has to know what I did.
Just tweet it.
I know nobody gives a fuck, but like I give a fuck. I want everybody to know.
The best part about seeing Ryan put his Immaculate Grid as Instagram story is me knowing that it's an Android because of the bubble letters.
So
it's stupid to me, but I think it's hilarious.
I listen, we're running long, so I'll keep my soapbox rant.
Yeah.
But like, I'm tired of motherfuckers judging me for my choice in phone. Just because you got wrapped into liking and being brainwashed into liking Apple products doesn't mean that everybody has to like the same shit that you do. Just this afternoon, somebody made fun of me for my phone because we're in a group chat and we can't name the group chat something fun. I think that's bullshit. And when people say that they don't like the color of my texts, that is racist, and I don't appreciate it.
This has been episode 142 of the Missed Call podcast.
It was kind of all over the place, literally all over the place. I recorded in 2 different locations for this.
Oh, before we go, our good friend Fletcher sent me this for Up Your Units. I don't know if I'm going to use it because I've already started with another sound, but here we go. You ready? Still down for the fade till I had to upgrade and double down on the
play. Up, home road. We were down by 4. You know I had the other skull. My teammates, they is how I do this. Nothing to it, my boy up your units. And my teammates, they is how I do this. Nothing to it,
Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. It's only 30 seconds.
And my teammates, they is how I do this. Nothing to it, my boy up your units. And my teammates, they is how I do this. Nothing to it, my boy up your gang.
Heat from the boy Fletcher. You can check Fletcher out on Spotify. Check out his music. He also does the opening for this here podcast. It's the Missed Call podcast. And you can check out Colby's new solo venture, Up Yours. You get all the gambling advice and insider trading that you need to be successful for this coming football season and for all seasons. Go check that out wherever you get your podcasts. You can check it out on YouTube too. Same thing with this podcast, Missed Call. Check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. You might even be watching it right now on YouTube. We'll be back next week recapping, college football being back. Maybe we'll do a Big Brain book club on the conclusion of what's the TV show? Hard Knocks? Hard to say. We'll figure it out next week. Join us then. Episode 142 in the books. Peace out.
All I got is missed calls on my line. Yeah, never seen a pick up right on time.